Okay. Welcome everyone to the Elevate Academy. It is Wednesday, April 8th, and we are still in this pandemic that we're dealing with. So when we go back and look at these in a couple of years from now, remember what we were dealing with. And, the Elevate Academy is a place for student athletes, families, people who just love sports. We're trying to mix it up with different types of people that are coming on to this. And we strive to empower everyone to help them be the best that they can be. And that maybe in listening to some of our guests and what they have to say, it's going to empower you to either want to do more, do something else, be better, or whatever it is. And today I have who's arguably one of the best lacrosse players ever to play the game for the women's side is Kylie O'Miller. So welcome, Kylie O'Miller. I was hoping you were going to come on in face paint today.
No, I'm actually, I was just telling you I'm in my childhood bedroom right now, and I don't know if I have any of that here, but I wish I did. I
I
wish
would have laughed. I would have literally laughed my butt off if you had done that.
if I showed up like that, just sitting in.
Yeah.
But no, thanks for having me. Excited to talk with anyone and everyone who's watching this, and hope everybody's staying safe and healthy in this difficult time for everyone.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. We are, Kylie and I are both here on Long Island, and we are in the epicenter of the COVID-19 virus right now. And I know some of the numbers that have been coming out, it seems like we're getting a little bit better. Hopefully they are. But everyone just got to stay safe. So just want to give everyone an overview of who Kylie is and some of her, she'll blush and she's very modest, but first of all, she's a three-time All-American. She was first team as both a junior and a senior. She's the NCAA all-time career points and assists leader. She has 252 goals and 246 assists for a total of 498 points. Just too shy of 500, which is just insane. And you surpassed one of my good friends, Jen Adams, who was the all-time leader prior to that. And you set the NCAA single season assist record with 86 assists. And you're also a Team USA player and also a professional women's lacrosse player. So once again, not too shabby for a kid from Islip, New York, going to Stony Brook and setting the world on fire. I see. You got to show that shirt a little more.
Here it is.
The KO17 shirt.
Yeah, this is what I wear on my face when I play in games. For this.
That's the eye black. So how are you doing in this whole thing?
Yeah, I think I would be lying if I said it wasn't difficult, or weird or out of the ordinary. I'm someone who, I moved out from home. I was on my own. A lot of what I do is traveling. A lot of what I do is personal connections, even just kind of being on the field with a one-on-one lesson or, working at Stony Brook as a volunteer assistant. Like, a lot of my day had to do with physically being in person and physically being able to help somebody, put their best out on the lacrosse field. And I think for all of my life, the best couple months of the year were right now,
Springtime.
May, June, July. Those are, prime time for lacrosse girls and lacrosse guys out there. So it's strange, and you kind of have to wake up and find a whole new purpose every day. And where, that usual purpose is waking up and like knowing that you have practice later, or knowing that you have a big game like later in the week and things like that. So I think just kind of what I've been doing is writing down daily goals, writing down daily habits, trying to keep the normalcy in that sense of what I do.
Yeah.
I've always been a big calendar girl. I've always been a big journal girl. So I'm just trying to keep that, because if I lose that, then I have nothing,
Yeah.
kind of keeping me on track. So, and I'm also just, trying to stay positive in it all. I know that I don't know when it'll be, but I know that lacrosse will come back to us eventually. And all the things that make us happy will come back to us eventually. So, just keeping fingers crossed that it's sooner rather than later, and just trying to keep spreading smiles as much as possible.
Well, you talk about spreading smiles. I've gotten to know Kylie over the last couple of years, and I got to tell you, this is a person who she literally, how she talks and everything. This is how she is. There's no fakeness here. One of the greatest things is seeing the interaction you have with young girls, how they look at you, it's like they're in awe of you. And then when they have the opportunity to literally like shake your hand, get your autograph, it's one of the greatest things. And it's like, I love seeing that.
Yeah, it's pretty surreal, and it makes me, some days, some long camp days or long, clinic or travel days where, it's exhausting mentally and physically, but like those are the moments that just make it so worth it. Knowing that someone can look at silly old me and be like, hey, I can be in her shoes one day, like that's really cool.
It
And it's
is.
kind of like, it takes
Yes.
away all those other stresses in the world, and makes it all worth it. So, and I think, within this time period that we're living through right now, where we're not able to physically be in front of each other, like I'm still trying to do that in any way that I can. So whether it's a FaceTime or hopping on, Zoom calls or,
A lot
um,
of Zoom calls.
yeah, and like, answering all the Instagram DMs. Like, I can't believe how many Instagram DMs I've gotten in the last couple of weeks, but like, keep sending them my way, girls, because I just love connecting with you. And the way that we can do that right now is virtually. And if that's the only way we can do it, then let's do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So this year, which was kind of interesting, this was your first year really um, coaching, and you came on as a volunteer assistant with Stony Brook. What was that like coming back, a year after graduation and coming back and coaching some of the kids that you played with?
Yeah. So I actually did it the last 2 years, so the last two spring seasons. So it's a difficult transition, just in the sense of like I wasn't coaching girls that I hadn't known before, right? So like they're a lot of them are my friends. My younger sister's on the team; she's a senior. But at the same time, like I kind of took on a little bit of like the role that I already had on the team as a leader and as a captain, just in a coaching shoe now.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you, I had that down as one of my
Just
questions.
kind of
What
an
was it like
interesting.
coaching your sister? Or
Yeah,
did
yeah.
you,
So,
or did you even coach her?
she doesn't need much coaching. She's pretty talented herself. But I think again, like it was and a lot of those girls are, right? Like I think a lot of the advice and the coaching tips that I could give them were more of leadership advice, or if they found themselves in a rut, like what things that I had done on the field that had helped me kind of get out of those moments, kind of like being a good teammate, like little things that I had always found myself kind of like just excelling at when I was a captain, and the things that I really like doing, like the little things.
Right.
So just trying to help them through those things that was kind of my role. And then being able to also, like help with the goalies, like that has made me such a better shooter, just being able to know how goalies work.
Made
Um,
your goalies better too.
exactly.
When your goalies are getting warmed up by Kylie Ohlmiller, it's gonna make you better.
Yeah, so I mean, it's things about it that I miss, and then just ultimately being able to also learn. Like I've learned so much from Joe Spallina and his staff on the field as a player, right? But like then being able to be on the sideline, and you almost see like the wheels turning and like the reasons behind why he, does the things
Right.
he does and says the things that he says. And it's a whole other level of it. And it kind of, I mean, not only has made me a better coach and a better trainer for these girls, but it's also made me able to kind of slow down the game and see it in a different perspective when I do get to go out there and play, every couple months, like I do with Team USA and with the fight.
Yeah, that's awesome. One of the things that I wanted to talk about and, to get out, because you do have so many fans out there, and I don't care whether, it's a young boy who is a lacrosse player. Yesterday I had Anson Dorrance on, who, is arguably the greatest coach ever. He's won 21 national championships, a World Cup, a championship. The guy just produces some of the best players in the world. And, we were talking about what are the characteristics that literally set the best apart. So for you personally, and don't be shy. And I really want you to come out and say it. Like, what are the things that you think that you brought to the table that literally set yourself apart and let you be the player who you became?
Yeah, I think, just to go off your point with that as well, I think something that I've learned from a lot of these great coaches is that if you don't ultimately love it, if it's not your passion, if you're not going to put your heart and soul into it, then you're not going to be able, like, yes, you could be like one of the best on the field, but you're not going to be able to take that next level, that next step. So I think for me, like, one of the main things has, like, I've always been in love with the process of it. I've always been in love with the fact of, like, chasing after something greater. Even if, and Coach Foligno will say it about me all the time, but I would have like an 8-point game and I'd still go into his office and be like, okay, what did I do wrong? Like, what can I do better next time? And we just work on my game and just kind of like continue to elevate. And now that it's like more of a personal thing, right? Like, I'm kind of on my own training. It's tapping into that mental training aspect of it. And how can I get better as an athlete? How can I get better as a coach? Who can I learn from? What books, what other athletes, what other coaches, like, especially in all this downtime, just trying to learn as much as I possibly can. But I think just that ultimate, like, want and need to get better and to, like, know that there's no end point, there's no end goal, like, whatever I reach, like, okay, yeah, I checked it off, but there's still more to achieve.
Sure.
I think that's kind of like what's been my guiding force, on top of just ultimately loving having the stick in my hand.
Well, it's funny, yesterday, that's one of the things that Anson Dorrance said. He said, if you could get, players to love the ball, become one with the ball, where it's just that thing. And I remember a quote that you said to me one time. You said, I'll take a bucket of balls, I'll put my headphones in, I'll just get lost in a bucket of balls. Talk about that.
Yeah. And it's funny because especially right now, like, a lot of girls always ask, like, what is your routine? Like, what do you go outside and practice? Like, do you do specific drills? And my answer is yes. Like, sometimes there are times where you got to rep something out just to get the hang of it. But most of the time I'll just go to a field, put my headphones in, put my favorite songs on, whatever gets the juices flowing, dump out the bucket of balls, and, like, each ball is different, right? So every time I pick up a ball, I'll do, like, a certain move, whatever it is, get to the cage, whether I miss, I drop it, I hit it, whatever it is, next ball, completely different thing. And I think what that's allowed me to do is, one, like, it's allowed me to imagine situations out on the field, right? Like, I can imagine this defender falling over that way, this defender kind of sliding to me, this defender, like, I'm tucking my stick as if somebody's right on my back, faking and finishing as if someone's in the cage, which is something that I think sometimes we forget to practice, is imagining those situations, right? We're kind of just, like, going through cones and going through motions and just shooting because we're shooting. But
visualization.
Yeah, exactly. So if you can imagine those real game-like situations, it becomes that much easier and slower to you when those situations actually happen. But I think it's also just allowed me to keep my love for it, right? Like, and finding out that I can pick up a ball and do a new trick that I've never done before, and then just kind of being like, whoa, what did I just do? Like, I want to try that a million more times, it keeps your love for it rather than getting bored with, like, the same old stuff. And keeps my creativity flowing. But it's just it's something that I've always done. And then, once I start the bucket of balls, I don't finish my shooting workout until every ball is in the cage. So, like, if I miss a bunch, I just pick them up from wherever I miss them and then, like, drive to the cage. If I keep missing them, if they, like, bounce off the pipe, then I, like, fake and finish from right there. As long as they're all behind goal line, then I can stop.
I love that.
Yeah.
But it's funny. Yesterday, you forget these little things. But yesterday, I literally took some balls. I went down and played wall ball yesterday for 45 minutes. I had my earphones in and just played wall ball for 45 minutes. And then my daughters came down and we had a group catch. But it's those little things that, you don't miss. I never hated it. I always loved that. And it's one thing I always tell the girls too. I said, and that's why I love what you said, that quote about getting lost in a bucket of balls, because most girls, just being honest, if you brought them to the field and you put out a bucket of balls, they're going to grab one ball and they're going to have a catch with someone. Mm-hmm. Where boys, the big difference is the boys are going to take that bucket, they're going to put it in front of the goal, and they're going to shoot it as hard as they can. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the things too that what you've done is you've added this level of creativity to your game that is just unparalleled. And I forget what year it was. It might have been either your freshman or sophomore year, but Stony Brook was playing in a preseason scrimmage at BC. Mm-hmm. And I happened to be there for that scrimmage. My daughter was on a recruiting trip, and I'm watching the game, and you scored a ridiculous behind the back goal, and you got a yellow card.
I called back.
In that scrimmage, and they called it back, and you were like, I remember your hands. You were giving the what, and then
I
if
give the
that
thumbs
wasn't
up.
bad enough, Joe Spallina might have lost his mind, and I'm like, this is a scrimmage. Joe's about to kill someone.
Well, I think the reasoning behind that, and it's actually like a play that we both remember very vividly because it was one of the first times that I threw one of those in a game. I think that's the biggest thing. Like it's something that I've done in my backyard a million times. Did it in high school. The first one I ever scored was in 8th grade in a Yellow Jackets game. I just always like found the opportunities for them because it's something that I've always practiced.
Right.
And then when I got to Stony Brook, it was pushed. Like it was from him. It was like, I need that creativity from you because when you get in tough spots, that's going to be the right play. That was something that he always kind of like took to me and was like, this is going to be your staple because like you're going to find yourself in tough situations and this is what's going to help you get out of it. And that's exactly what happened in that situation. I remember it. It was a rainy day, right? Rainy
I
fall.
remember it.
Very, very close game. I caught the ball in the front and I was kind of like running too far past the cage. So I whipped it behind my back, went in, didn't hit anybody.
Wasn't even close. I watched the whole
I
thing.
didn't hit anybody. But since my defender was kind of draped all over me, the refs decided that it was going to be a yellow card because they had assumed that either my follow through or my stick head, something had, of course, had to hit the defender. So I think the biggest thing for us, myself and Coach Spallina in that sense, was like, we were just kind of, our argument was that refs hadn't really seen it before. Like there's
I
only
agree.
a handful of times that they'd seen it in the women's game or at that speed or whatever it was. And they just kind of like had to assume that it must have been dangerous. Right. So that's where, his frustration came in that game and my frustration came with the palms up. I mean, I try not to do that anymore, but I think it's also goes to show how far the game's come even since then. And it's been like 5 years since that. So like you see girls doing it almost every game
Sure.
now.
Well, that's the thing is I tell the kids now, it's
almost every game. And again, like
it's part of the game.
Yes, exactly. And that's what I was going to go into. It's like, it's not a showmanship thing. It's not a like, hey, watch me be fancy. It's, hey, like I'm running too far past the cage. The only angle I have is to throw it over my back. And it's something that I've practiced every day in practice. So it's going to go in because I'm confident in it. And it's another tool that I've added into my toolbox. Why not use it type of thing. So,
Well, it's funny when we were playing in college, and the freshman year we were playing against the Gate brothers, and Gary and Paul Gate. The scouting report was big, strong, slow, all lefty Canadians, and it's like, okay, they weren't slow, they were big, they were strong, but the reason why they didn't put the stick in their right hand is they would just fire it behind their back and accurately, and those were the two guys. And we had a few Canadians on our team at Brown at the time, and they definitely went behind the back, but it was just a different level. And, by you doing it and watching, girls wanting to emulate what you're doing. But the one thing I want to ask you is, when was the first time you dove and shot it behind the back?
So I actually told this story for the first time ever. I said it out loud on another Zoom call the other day. And it goes into that other aspect that I was talking about imagining situations on the field. And I don't remember the exact first time that I did it, but I remember that like growing up, I always used to have this dream. Like when I was sleeping, I had this dream where I was visualizing some sort of game tying or like a big moment in
Right.
the game. And I was diving across the crease, airborne, behind the back, top corner, and then once I hit the ground to stay out of the crease, I did like a somersault roll. I would always have the same dream. I didn't know when it was going to happen, if it was going to happen. I just had the same dream. The one time that exact play happened was when I broke the NCAA points record.
Against UMBC, right?
Yep, against UMBC. And I didn't notice it at the time. And then, the video was everywhere. And I was like, why does that look so familiar? Like, why is that? And I was like, oh my God, that's something that I've been visualizing. Yeah. And it kind of like, it gave me goosebumps too, but it's been something that I've been visualizing and dreaming of for years now. And just kind of like, I don't know, again, goes into that, like just love for fun plays like that and being able to visualize it and dream it up in your head and play it up in your head and just like hope that it becomes reality by practicing it over and over and over again. And again, those opportunities end up showing themselves. But kind of one of those goosebump stories that
I
is.
love it. I love it. It's fantastic. But that's the thing that I try to tell all the girls that I coach. It's like, listen, if you're not doing this stuff in practices and scrimmages, you're not going to do it in a game.
Mhm.
You have to do it. And that's the time. It's like, make your mistakes as many as you can in practice,
Yeah.
because that's the only way you're going to get better. But you mentioned the word love a lot. And, literally one of my favorite people in the world is one of your coaches who you now coach with, is Kim Hillier. Kimmy and I are great friends. She's literally one of my favorite people. She's just one of the most positive people I know. What's it like working with Kim on a daily basis?
Oh my goodness, it's great. And she was someone that had given me so much of those little nuggets of advice while I was a player. Someone that kind of helped me through tough situations with that positivity that you mentioned. It's infectious, and it's every day too. And the fact that we've been able to kind of now formulate a friendship as coaches at Stony Brook, it's been great. And I've learned so much from her, just about being a female and being like a boss about it.
The boss.
And just taking nothing and just like giving absolutely everything. And she's kind of like another mentor in my life that so super grateful to have, but just an awesome human being. And she deserves the world.
Yeah, she's great. I love her so much. But, then let's talk about Joe. I've known Joe for a really long time. The Spallina brothers, the whole family. But I would tell you that, one thing with Joe, for me, is Joe will never hesitate to just get on a call with me and we could just talk lax. And, even now the defenses that I run are directly related to, Joe helping me out and working on, hey, try this, do this, use this in practice. And your man down is going to be so much better if you do this. And so I love that side of it. And Joe's been always great with me, and I appreciate that a lot. What's he like as a coach to someone like you?
I mean, he's been, more than I can even imagine, like explain in words for my lacrosse career. And, he was someone who took a young girl in high school, in myself, and just pretty much painted out all my dreams in front of me and said like, hey, listen, like buy into my belief in you, my belief in this program, my belief in myself to be able to take you to these heights. And let's do this together. It's going to take a lot of hard work. It's going to take a lot of sacrifice. It's going to take a lot of love for the game. And like, ultimately, let's do this together. And that's what I bought into, and like still am buying into to this day. Because I think, no matter, even if I graduated from Stony Brook and I don't get to put that jersey on anymore, I myself know, and something that he's always taught us, is that I never take that jersey off. Right. And I never take, that Stony Brook jersey off. I'm never going to take it off in my life, type of thing. You're always going to represent everything that we did together. And, he's taught me so many just life lessons on the lacrosse field that I can't even begin to explain. He's taught me how to carry myself off the field. He's taught me how to speak to the media. Like, you should have seen me when I was a freshman. He would make fun of me all the time now. But I think it's just, he's been a very, very important mentor in my life, not only teaching me the X's and the O's and how to incorporate what he's learned from the men's lacrosse game and being around all those pros into my game as an athlete, but also how to, block all the noise, block all the hype, block all the outside stuff that's kind of like trying to get into your head, and just focus on you and your love for the game and your ultimate hard work ethic. And what you put out on the field every day is what you're going to get out on the field on game day. Those kinds of things are what I've learned from him.
Well, the mental side of it can be even so much more sometimes, because,
Absolutely.
like even today I was talking to someone about something where it's like, you can hear someone say, 80 people say something nice about you, and then one person says something really, really mean. And boy, does that stick with you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And learning how to block it out and move on from it.
Yeah. And I think something that actually, I remember Kim and Coach Joe, they both had said once, even if it's like in comparison to like Instagram comments, right? Like, you will have for every one negative Instagram comment you have at least 10 positive, right? So for every one hater that you have out there for whatever you're doing, you have at least 10 positive, like people that are supporting you or people that love what you're doing. So you got to like kind of put that in perspective and remember that, that you have way more supporters than you do haters. So it's just more important to kind of put those haters to the side, or even take what they're telling you and make it fuel you to do even more of what you're doing and be even more confident in it. So again, I mean,
That's a great piece of advice right there. That's a great piece of advice, especially in the social media world. You know, to all the young girls who are following you out there, it's like, you know, take what those haters are saying and use it to fuel you.
Mm-hmm.
Use it to build you up.
Absolutely, it should build you up, and I think that's something that, again, it goes back to Coach Spallina. You know, he had always said, like, let's prove people wrong. Let's prove people wrong, and still says it to this day. So I just kind of take that with me every time, and take the negatives or the failures in my lacrosse career, whatever they might be. They might have been, you know, season career-ending losses. They might have been this, that, and the other thing, but they fuel me every day instead of breaking me down.
Well, you guys were on a roll too this year at Stony Brook. I had the opportunity to watch you guys in person in the last game against Princeton. I watched the Syracuse game live on the ACC network, which was just incredible. Mm-hmm. The team was just playing so well. And talk a little bit about Allie Kennedy. She is literally one of my favorite players to watch. Man, is she just a force of nature.
Yeah, she's I wish I had her speed and her athleticism. She's incredible. And she's taken on such a cool leadership role with that team too. And yeah, just being able to play with her at Stony Brook, and now we get to play together with Team USA. It's really special to have that connection, but she's a workhorse. And that's
you know, I said to someone, I said, she reminds me of like an old school running back who you can hit them as hard as you can and it doesn't even affect them.
Yeah.
There was a play in the Princeton game where literally a Princeton defender came in as she was going to goal and just literally cross-checked her so hard, she barely bumped off of it, put it in her left hand and ripped the goal. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
But that Princeton game that she played in, she literally took over that game. I kept on, as soon as the game ended, all I wanted to do was see the stats because I'm like, I think she might have just had 15 draw controls.
Yeah, she's the type of player that, you know, can take over a game because she puts her all out there, right? And like, you should see her at the end of a game. She's absolutely gassed. She has put 110% of everything that she has into that game. And she does that every practice. She does that every day. So it's contagious, and it's something that a lot of great athletes have and that you learn about. So that's what makes her great.
Yeah, she was sitting at the table after the game signing autographs, and she was completely iced up from like head to toe. And afterwards, I just had to come up to her and I just said, I love watching you play. It's just so much fun. I had the opportunity to meet her parents on the plane ride down to President's Cup. So they were really nice people as well. But that's awesome. What was it like for you the first time you actually put that Team USA jersey on over your head?
Pretty surreal. It's hard to put into words. And it still happens every time I put it on too. It still happens every time I get to kind of like even just getting off the plane and knowing that I'm going to the US lacrosse facility for a training weekend. It's very surreal. It's something that you dream about as a little kid, not knowing what sport you're going to play yet, but you just know that you want to play for your country. So, you know, just ultimately growing up loving lacrosse and watching a lot of these girls that I'm getting to play alongside now, you know, like Katrina Dowd, Michelle Tumalo, Kayla Trainer, just to name a couple, you know, and now they're teammates. It's pretty surreal, and I've learned so much from them just from being around them. But just that ultimate feeling of wearing red, white, and blue, and like knowing that you're representing that American flag, you're representing your country, playing the sport that you love. There's no greater feeling. There's no greater honor. And yeah, I wouldn't take any of those moments back for anything. That's for sure.
Well, it's amazing. You know, getting the opportunity to play with someone like a Katrina Dowd as an example. Obviously, she's older. But, you know, when Katrina was, I look at Katrina very similar to how I look at you, is, you know, the things that she was doing out on the field, no one had done before. I remember a goal that she scored in the semifinals against Penn. Northwestern was down a goal, and she came down the field, took a shot, trying to get a shot off right at the end of the game. Goalie made a save. The ball was at the crease, and she literally scooped it, and it looked like she almost went around the world with it almost.
So diving, right?
Like diving with 0.4 seconds left. And I'm like, did that just happen? Did that just happen?
Mm-hmm.
And just, amazed. But like I said, I go, that wasn't the first time she took that shot.
Yeah.
You've done that in practice.
And those are the people that, kind of influenced me to try that stuff in the backyard, and then ultimately try it in a practice, and then try it in a game. And those people are like who I looked up to because of their ability to say like, hey, I'm confident with this, I'm gonna try it, I'm gonna do it, and just like you said, like it's something she's probably done so many times in practice. Like, you should see these Team USA practices. Sometimes I just look around, I'm like, is this real? Like, is this like what I'm surrounded by? Did you just see that behind the back fake to between the legs, like top corner? Because I'm like my mind is blown, and I'm getting to the opportunity to play with these girls.
Yeah, Kayla Trainer is another one. I mean, Kayla Trainer, what amazes me about Kayla Trainer is, most players you'll look at and you'll know they're a lefty or a righty, and they could do some things, with both hands, but their one hand is just so much more dominant. Kayla Trainer, the stuff that she does with both hands, it's like, whew, man, it's just so much fun to watch.
Absolutely. Yeah, she's one of those players too that if you ask her what her dominant hand is, it's I don't know, whatever feels better today. Which is, and it's something that I try to emulate as well. Like, I'm definitely a dominant lefty. There are things that I can do way better lefty than I can righty, but it's been always a big part of my training schedule is to try to catch my right hand up to my left, so that I've always been someone who's like, hey, listen, if your left arm gets hurt, if your left hand gets hurt, like, you still want to be able to go out on the field and be able to produce at the same level. And that's just
or play one-handed, because I'll tell you, I went to see Northwestern play Hofstra back in the day, and Danielle Spencer was on the team, and this was during warm-ups. They were doing it like just a 3-on-2 drill, and someone threw a really high pass to Danielle Spencer, and it wasn't on purpose. It was just a bad pass. She caught it one-handed, and in one move caught it and shot it one-handed. And I looked at my wife, who was at the time, I said, holy cow, that might be the best play we're going to see all day. And, it's just, but, the funny thing is, like, I remember John Grant Jr. doing that, shooting it one-handed behind his back with a bounce shot. And it's like, this is the level. It's like trying to get kids to understand, like, you got to do this stuff. There's a time and place for it.
Absolutely. There's a time and place for everything.
You mentioned just a minute ago, you said, when you were younger and you were thinking about all these things and you didn't know what sport you were going to play. What other sports did you play when you were a kid?
Yeah. So growing up, I first started playing soccer, basketball. We swam competitively for a couple of years too, my sister and myself. I loved it.
Who was a better swimmer?
We had different strokes. So
okay.
I was a butterflyer. I liked that.
Oh, butterfly is brutal.
I know. I loved it though. And she was a breaststroke girl. So we found all the trophies and the medals in the attic the other day when we were going through them, but we could probably count it out if we wanted to, but we won't go into that. But
competitive.
We then both played volleyball, basketball, and lacrosse all through high school. So we both played on varsity 9th through 12th grade for all three of those.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. And volleyball is something that, I wish I got to play more often. I love it. I miss it a lot. It was great.
Come on, you're ice slip. You got to get out to Robert Moses. You got to get onto the beach.
I know, especially with how nice it's been the last couple of days. My sister and I actually got out on the front lawn and we were peppering a little bit the other day, and it was just nice to, get the ball back in our hands a little bit.
That's awesome. As a coach now for Stony Brook, because we do have, kids listening to this. What are the things that you're looking for in players that, kind of set themselves apart, both in games and clinics that you run and stuff like that? What are you looking for in kids?
I think like something that I always look for when I'm doing clinics and stuff, and that makes me recognize, a great player or someone that really, really wants to be there, is just like those ultimate hustle plays, the interaction when I'm speaking, right? Like eyes locked with me, just kind of like head nodding, like if I'm explaining something with my stick, maybe trying it off to the side while I'm explaining it. Just like little things like that just make me know that you're engaged. And then when you're out on the field, if it's just like gameplay, ultimately, and I think this goes to say for a lot of college coaches, just hustle plays, being a good teammate. And those are a couple things, like those are vague things that I can say, but hustle plays meaning you drop the pass, you don't get sad about it, you pick your head up, turn around, go get the ground ball back. Or one of your teammates throws a pass that's way too far away, and instead of like yelling at them, you turn around and go get the ball back for them, and you say like, hey, I got you.
Right.
Just like those kinds of moments. I think that ultimately, and this is something that Joe Spallino always says too, is like lacrosse can be taught, but those things are what show a great athlete, a great teammate, a great person that's going to be willing to give their all on the lacrosse field for their teammates. So those are things that I always look for in my clinics too.
That's awesome. Well, it's almost like, yesterday Anson Dorrance was talking about, the competitiveness factor, how much do you want to win, and, how much you're willing to do on your own, when you're away from practice and you're not with teammates, are you getting better on your own? Because, that's what he said is, talking about Mia Hamm, the definition of a true champion is bent over, drenched in sweat, at the brink of exhaustion when no one's looking.
Mm-hmm.
So, all those things go into it. And I know Joe loves to push competition. Joe is literally one of the ultimate competitors. He loves to compete and everything, loves to win. How much of that went into your Stony Brook practices? Just that competition factor, going after each other.
Yeah. I think ultimately our success when I was there came from that. The fact that we kind of could put like we were all best friends on and off the field. But we also wanted to push each other to be our greatest versions of ourselves. And the way that we could do that, it was, him pushing through the practices so that game day seemed easy. And being competitive with each other in a sense of like, if you're not competing with each other, then you're not ultimately helping each other get better. And that was just kind of a mantra for us all going through that, and still is in that program to this day. I don't think that'll ever go anywhere, because we ultimately want what's best for our teammates to the right and left of us. Yeah. And the way that you can do that, and the way that you can do that in anything in life with the people around you that you support and that you love, is to lift them up, and to help them get better in any way possible. And if that's to challenge them, then so be it. And let's challenge them with everything you got, because if you're challenging them, they're most likely going to challenge you back, and that's just going to make you better in the same.
Yeah. Well, one of the things is, you look at, everything that you've been able to accomplish, and you've accomplished so much. I mean, being on Team USA, you're literally the #1 leader in NCAA history in points and goals and assists. But if you were talking to your 12 or 13-year-old self right now and had a chance to go back, what would you tell yourself to do differently?
I think I would say, two things. One, don't take your foot off the gas pedal. Like for 1 second. I think this is something that I actually did a podcast yesterday with Mark Glacini in the PLL, and he mentioned something that said along the lines of, you're never as good or as bad as you think you are. So I think just kind of like humbling myself in a little bit of a sense of like, hey, like, yes, this is awesome. You're excelling in middle school, high school, whatever it is, but like keep reaching for greater heights. Don't ever take your foot off the gas pedal. And then at the same sense, like, try not to rush moments of life away, right? I found myself a little bit in high school, like wishing high school away so that I could get to college. And then all of a sudden college was over and I was like, oh my God, I want it all back, So I think just trying to tell myself, if I was 12 or 13, enjoy the moments, because you're going to learn lessons from each and every coach, each and every teammate, each and every year of high school that you go through, each and every sport, each and every moment, and just try to like stop a little bit, take it all in, and soak it in a little bit more and longer.
That's awesome. I'm going to end with a few other questions, but you've had the opportunity now with Team USA and obviously, playing with some incredible players at Stony Brook as well. Who are some of your favorite players to play with?
That's a good question. I mean, one of my all-time favorite players to play with is my sister. Just because we've gotten to play all sorts of sports together all growing up. And then just on the lacrosse field, we've just always had that telepathy and trust where it's like I could throw a pass that's probably at her knees. She's not open at all, but she's going to be the only one who catches it and finishes it because she knows it's coming. But
sister factor.
Yeah, sister factor. It's kind of like a cheat code, but that's okay.
Well, she's a righty and you're a lefty. How perfect is that?
Exactly. Mom and dad did that right somehow. But Courtney Murphy was another one that was just one of my all-time favorites to play with. Again, she was just always open and always in the right moment. But, she had a fire about her that kept us going as a Stony Brook team. And it was just ignited a fire under our butts. Yeah, and at the professional level, I mean, I've made so many awesome friends that are now teammates that used to be like college rivals, right? And that's the coolest part about it. And I think, Michelle Tumolo has been one that I really enjoy playing with because she's
love Michelle.
Yeah, and she's someone that like sees the game so well that after every single play, it's like she comes over and talks to you about it, and it's like, yo, this was awesome. Like, let's try this next time. Let's do this, and it's a whole other level that makes you think the game and think it creates.
She is a free athlete. Athlete.
Her too, and like another part of that, and a lot of the other players on Team USA that I've got to play with is like everyone just gets so amped up for each other in moments of success, and I think that is something super special. But
who's some of the toughest players that you've had to actually play against?
That's a great question. I think Alice Mercer is one of the toughest defenders to beat. I've never seen someone more athletic and just absolutely puts her all out on the field.
Boy, does she have some wheels too.
Yes, and she will get the ball no matter what. It's like it's her game plan, and she's not turning away from it. Meg Dowdy is also someone super tough, very, very tough to beat. Those Maryland defenders, they really are. And I think there were a couple defenders at Stony Brook too that we battled every day, and that was the cool part. Like Jess Volpe, she used to just absolutely, me and her, we would just go at it every single day because she was the low left post and I was the low left attacker, and it was again that battle of just like making each other better so that when we ended up wearing the same jersey on game day, we were both excelling in our spots. And
that's the beauty of it. It's that, the two of you literally by battling like that, that's exactly what you're doing. You're just making each other better. And what you said it earlier, you're making game day easy.
Mm-hmm. And that's the ultimate goal, right? Like, so that you can kind of fight against the opposing side together because you know that you gave your all against each other all week, and you trust in the other person to give their all on game day.
That's awesome. All right, so we'll wrap it up here with our final three questions that we wrap up the Elevate Academy with. So the first thing is, you have a question that you have to answer, and that was asked by Anson Dorrance.
Wow.
So Anson Dorrance, his question for you, and I told him who you are. So he said, okay, he goes, my question for Kylie is it more important to love your coach or trust your coach?
That's a great question. And I think that love forms from trust. So I think it's more important to trust your coach. And I think that when you trust your coach and your coach trusts you, like I mentioned, love kind of forms out of that. That relationship forms out of that. And I think that trust is something so important between, especially at some of the higher levels, but even at any level, right? If you can trust what your coach is telling you and instilling in you, and you know that it's ultimately, helping your stick work or helping you get better, or helping you beat that defender, whatever it is, like you see it physically happen because they told you something, that's to build that trust, right? And then you start to, they start to kind of like put different roles out for you on the field and things like that, and you start to fulfill them. That shows them trust, and it's a two-way street type of thing. And I think when that two-way street starts to go both ways, that's when that form of love it pops up, and it's something super special because you not only have trust, but you got a love relationship between you and your coach.
I don't think you could have answered that any better.
Oh, thanks.
That was awesome.
That was a great question from a legendary
Yeah,
human.
that was awesome. So now you have to ask a question. So your question is for Kelly Nascimento DeLuca. So Kelly is coming on Friday, and she's the daughter of Pele, one of the probably the most popular, well-known soccer players ever. And she was a soccer player herself. She just is produced a film that was picked up by Netflix called Warriors of a Beautiful Game, about the struggle that women soccer players have had to face to play the game at the highest level. Mm-hmm. And so what is your question for Kelly?
My question for Kelly, I think, would have to do with, I want to know if she has any regrets in her career, singular or whatever they might be, any sort of regrets that she wishes she could go back and either change how she dealt with or keep the same, but kind of like how she kind of went through those processes. I think everyone has different parts of their journey that they would like to go back to and maybe handle differently. I would love to know what hers might be.
Love it. So, last question. Okay. What's the single best piece of advice you've ever gotten, and who gave it to you?
Okay. I have two.
Love it.
Two. One, Joe Spallina. I think his mentality on blocking the noise and proving haters wrong has always stuck with me, and always will in everything that I do. It could be like, and he always says it all the time. He's someone who like sees how fast he can get home. He's like racing people on the sidewalk. Just, they don't know it. Like if there's somebody on the treadmill next to him, it's just like that mentality that he's instilled in me. And then the second one comes from my dad. He's always told me to let the game come to me. You know, whenever it starts to get frustrating, or, you know, your shots aren't going the right way, or you feel like you're not producing, lacrosse is a simple game, and it's something I put my all into. And he's reminded me that ultimately, if you take a step back, see the bigger picture of what's happening around you, allow the game to come to you, those opportunities are going to present themselves. So yeah.
That's awesome. Love it. I love that you came up with two right away.
No, thanks.
That's fantastic. So for those people who want to kind of, just, learn more about you, I know you're on Instagram. You want to give your Instagram handle?
Absolutely. So I'm on Instagram at Kylie O'Miller 17 and also KO17 Lacrosse. So I'm doing a bunch of stuff on there, putting out some drills and things. And I also have a YouTube channel. That's just Kylie O'Miller if you search it up. So there's a couple drills on there as well. Some more things coming.
Here's the thing that we need to figure out. Okay. I'm going to give you your homework. Of your 252 goals, how many were them behind the back? Any idea?
Oh, that is a wonderful question. I don't know. I could probably tell you I've got at least 252 behind the back attempts, though. I don't know how many went in, but that's interesting. I wonder how I could find that out. I'm gonna reach out.
We'll have to figure that out, and we'll get you to give me the number when you can. But listen, Kylie, I appreciate this so much. This is so awesome. All the kids out there who literally look up to you and want to be you. It's awesome. It's just the best thing. Keep being who you are. You're a special person. I know it.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for everyone who's listening. And thanks for all your support always. I hope everybody stays safe and healthy and happy. Keep spreading smiles.
All right. This is the Elevate Academy. We just had on one of the best ever. So Kylie O'Miller, thank you so much. And peace out, everyone, and have a great day.